Logic is the foundation of thought itself, if you ask me, and truth tables are the foundations of logic. So knowing them is key for any intellectual endeavor. In this episode, I will go through the truth tables for conditionals and biconditionals. In the end, I will also show why knowing them is so important. So here are the operators that I will go through in today's episode. Logical, material conditional, and material biconditional. As we discussed in the last episode, the number of rows is calculated by taking 2 to the power of the number of variables we're dealing with. And in today's example, we only have 2 variables, A and B, so we only need 4 rows. So now, let's begin. Here is the logical symbol for material conditional. What signifies a conditional sentence is every if-then sentence. If A, then B, for example. When we discuss conditionals, it's even more important to whisper the name of the symbols, or in other words, translating them into English. That way it makes way more sense, at least in the beginning. So I would recommend you to say if A, then B, rather than saying A arrow B. Also, it's good to know that the proposition that comes before the symbol is sometimes referred to as the antecedent, and the proposition that comes after is referred to as the consequent. And just like before, we want to do a fully exhaustive truth evaluation, i.e., test out each possible situation. So here we fill out the different possible truth values. True, true, false, false. And then under B, true, false, true, false. So now, let's make this example a bit more concrete. Let's say that A means, come over to my place, and B means, I will give you a hamburger. So let's say that my friend told me, if you come over to my place, I will give you a hamburger. In the first scenario here, both of them are true. That will make the whole sentence true, right? If it is true that I went to my friend's place and that he gave me a hamburger, that will make the whole sentence true. In the second scenario, I come over to my friend's place, but then he didn't give me a hamburger. But wouldn't you say that my friend lied to me then? He said that I would get a hamburger if I came over to his place. So here, the whole sentence is false. But then in scenario 3, let's say that I stayed at home instead, but my friend missed me, so he came over to me with a hamburger. Some might find this one odd, but in this scenario, the sentence is true. Because we didn't really test out the whole statement, did we? So if the antecedent is false, but the consequent is true, that makes the whole sentence true. This is sometimes referred to as a vacuous truth, and this will be important for other reasons that I will explain later. In scenario 4, both are false. I didn't go to my friend's place and I didn't get a hamburger either. This one is true as well, oddly enough, since we didn't test out the statement, did we? I wouldn't know if my friend told me the truth or not, since I never went to his place and I didn't get a hamburger. So here we have the truth table for material conditional. And it is false only when the antecedent is true and the consequent is false. Now, let's move on to biconditional. Here is a symbol for biconditionals. This one is sometimes referred to as equivalence as well, but I do not appreciate calling it that, for sometimes equivalence can mean something else, which I will discuss in a future episode. But biconditionals is very important to know if you're into analytic philosophy, since it's commonly used for stipulating definitions. Let's stick to the last example, but this time around my friend says, If and only if you come over to my place, I will give you a hamburger. Same thing here. We have 4 possible different scenarios. In the first example, both are true. And that would make the whole sentence true as well, right? I came over to my friend's place and he gave me a hamburger. In scenario 2, it is true that I went to my friend's place, but he didn't give me a hamburger. Then the sentence is false, right? He lied to me. If and only if I come by his place, will I get a hamburger. And here in scenario 3, it is false that I went to my friend's place, but true that he gave me a hamburger. But then, that is false. He said if and only if I came over to his place would he give me a hamburger. So here, my friend lied to me. So in this scenario, the whole sentence is false. And lastly, in scenario 4, it is false that I went to my friend's place and false that he gave me a hamburger. This makes actually the whole sentence true, since we didn't really perform a test to see if my friend lied to me or not, did we? In other words, if both are false, it doesn't contradict the whole sentence. So here we write down true. Like I said before, biconditionals is very important for analytic philosophers. For an example, some philosophers claim that someone possesses propositional knowledge if and only if he or she has a justified true belief. So, K if and only if J and T and B. Now, if I would say instead, if K, then J and T and B, and we look at the truth table, here in the third scenario, that will make the whole sentence K is false, that I have knowledge, but true, that I have a justified true belief, true. But that's not what we want, right? Because here what is said is that you can have a JTB without it being knowledge at the same time. So in other words, something more is needed for knowledge. But what we want is a definition of what knowledge is. So whenever you have knowledge, you also have a justified true belief, and vice versa. This is why the biconditional is so important for analytic philosophers. So here it should be instead if and only if. A lot of information there. But if you learned something new, then consider subscribing.